What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today we're going to talk to you about Ethereum Classic. I want to give you an overview of some of the current data points, break it down on what's really been moving the price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. At the time of doing this video, it is down 5.76%, a fair amount of volume somewhat, so 5.4 million. And going over some data points prior to the technicals and whatever else, there is still a good increase of merchants accepting it as a form of payment. So 1,252.7 just this month alone. So I think generally that's a fairly good thing. Kind of is opposite to what recently came out. So this was floating around on Twitter, and I believe it was published on Forbes as well. But it says good for nothing blockchains. The 20 blockchains below command a total market value of more than 100 billion, despite the fact that they are unproven and have little utility other than for speculative crypto trading. And there is yours truly, ETC. So go over some market cap, monthly active developers, and things like that. But it does show under the comments, original Ethereum chain supported by purists. So I'll zoom in. Hopefully you guys can see. This is from Twitter, so I don't think it's really zooming in all that well. But you guys get what I'm talking about. Still not the best. So it's kind of opposite. You do see just the number of merchants increasing, which, as I pointed out in the past, the chart is looking fairly good, slowing somewhat, but this is good, opposite to what this does indicate. And this is why under my channel, I'm more of a technicals guy, because not to say it's easy, but data points don't lie. And this is why it can be translated to equities, to everything out there. Equities actually is a little bit harder because you have to deal with board of directors. Just a lot of finite things can move a stock price, whereas ETC, you kind of look at macro events and the technicals. That is it. So you look at, like, for instance, people's appetite for risk, which right now it is in the neutral territory at 45. So of course it is completely different. You see a reduction in volume, especially when it was in the extreme greed category. So everything is somewhat easier. So this is why I've said in the past, I really would like someone on my channel. I've tried in the past, just I think timing and scheduling hasn't worked out, but someone on my channel that can talk all about the ecosystem, because I know some finite things enough to get through, but to combat against this right here, like, it would be good to have someone on that can actually explain this. So stay tuned for that. Or if you guys have any recommendations on who would be a good suitable candidate, whether it be on Twitter or whatever, let me know in the comments below, or put their handle in there and I can definitely reach out to them. But aside from that though, you do see right now ETC is 25th based on market cap, and it has been doing fairly well. So last time I did a video, I think it was roughly 29, 28, something like that. And of course, you can kind of see over the last 7 days, it has been doing fairly well. So down 4.04% in comparison to like 12%, 18, and whatever else. So ETC, it is what it is. Obviously, I've pointed out in the past, when you are investing in ETC or just any crypto in general, you have to have a long-term time horizon. Of course, you can swing trade based on my videos or whatever, but if you are thinking long-term, then you just have to kind of accept a lot of volatility, and I think that's pretty much a given at this stage. But looking at some data points, so right now there is a lot of longs closing out the position. So if you do couple that with just the lower volume, this is why you are getting a lot of crazy swings. So over this last little bit, you've seen a lot of longs closing out their position and a lot of whales. And this was roughly around the time period I did my last video. So I said at this stage, this was something to be of concern over, and that it was most likely going to result in it going down. But you really wanted to watch for this to hold, and it actually did. It bounced off of that. So even in the next couple of days, definitely watch for this 25.59 to really hold, because the technicals aren't looking all that great right now. So 25.59 is going to be the next strong support, and then 25.65 is going to be the next strong resistance. And it kind of bounced off of that general area today, or at least over the last 24 hours. So again, just keep note of a lot of these support and resistance points. Aside from all of that fun jazz, let's talk on technicals and what's really been moving it. So right now, I have the 1-day chart up, 725, 100-day moving averages, Bollinger Band, stochastic RSI, and momentum. So over the last little bit, again, going back to this right here, so people's appetite for risk, a lot of companies have been hitting home run earnings. So there has been a rotation from the crypto market to the equities, and actually it just dropped 1 point right here to 44, but beside the point. So there has been that rotation of capital, and so in turn, this is why you do see a little bit lower in volume, and thus whenever there's lower volume and just technicals are kind of overdone, this is where you do see pullbacks. So this is why even looking on stochastic, you do see it considered overbought, and typically whenever you see a reduction in volume at the same time as the stochastic indicating overbought, you usually get a kind of a pullback as what does happen. So I think in reality over the next couple days, and so of course when I'm looking at the 1-day chart, it's usually good for the next 2 weeks as far as a prediction. Of course, the crystal ball isn't always accurate all the time, but over the next 2 weeks, there probably is going to be a pullback. So once again, going back over here, really want to watch for this 25.59 to hold. So definitely that's going to be absolutely key. But right now it is flirting with that 7-day moving average. So something that you really need to watch for that to hold, at least in the short term over the next couple hours. And so in essence, that could be either a make it or break it kind of point for ETC. And just looking right here, number of investors have been getting out over this last little bit, whether it be taking profits or something else. And then looking at the 4 hour, because as I've pointed out in the past, the 4 hour feeds into the 1, and then the 1 feeds into the 4, and it's fun old circle. On the 4 hour, it is looking somewhat like it's holding up. So this is where it's kind of the make it or break it aspect. You do see it kind of the stochastic has reset. You do see somewhat of a bearish deviation on this. Number of investors, at least on the 4 hour, have been going up. So people are somewhat buying the dip, if that makes sense. But clearly that just might be short-lived because it is kind of flirting with that point right here, that 100-day moving average. So if it does break below that, then this is where all hell could essentially break loose, if that makes sense. So you might have another very swift downtrend. And then looking at the 1 hour briefly, once it does load. So this is more of a broken chart. So this is where it is feeding and will feed into the 4 hour chart. So I think in reality, the 4 hour chart will be broken, thus kind of pushing into the 1. So like I said, technicals on that standpoint do indicate that's going to pull back into at least the $25 range. If that doesn't hold, then obviously it'll be the $20 range. So it's probably at this stage in the game not going to get back into the teens, but at the end of the day, you also do have the Feds talking on interest rates this upcoming Wednesday, so that's going to cause a hell of a lot of volatility. So let me know your thoughts on ETC. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What have you been doing with ETC? And as well, throw in the comments below your predictions for instance, 1 week out, 2 weeks out, whatever floats your boat. Like, do you think it's going to pull down into the low 20s, or do you think it is going to retrace back into the 30+ range? So what's your thoughts? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And with all that, appreciate all of you watching.